Having said that, all this tariff talk is exactly what Anna said. It's to mask the 4.3 trillion they're about to give away to largely the rich. And
so after his crushing defeat at the hands of Andrew Wilson on the Piers Morgan show, Hunky Chunky Cenk Uygur is back on the Young Turks to further display his TDS. But this time, him and Anna are trying to tell their audience that actually Donald Trump wanting to do away with the income tax and impose tariffs is actually another way to keep making the rich richer. Yeah, I know, but let's hear them out.
It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
Does that make sense? Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So, I give Trump credit as usual because it's the fairest show in America. The External Revenue Service was catchy. He did that in a couple of speeches, including at the inauguration. Well, we were gonna get the money from China and other countries, but we're not. So what they do is they impose the tariffs actually on companies that import in, and those companies then usually pass on most of it to us, and we pay it anyway to the consumers. And so what it winds up becoming is a really regressive tax. So once you get rid of the income tax, which he's now threatening to, we'll get to that in a sec. What happens is then the rich pay a lot less, but the average person who's a consumer pays a lot more in tariff/taxes. And so it's redistribution of income to the top. And there's one other giant problem with it, but I'll get to that in a second.
So,
you know what's so wild to me about these freaking libtards is that they'll advocate for things like raising the fast food workers' minimum wages to $20 an hour, right? They'll advocate for socialized healthcare. They'll advocate for ending drilling and stuff because of the environment and makes gas prices go up. They'll advocate for all these things, right? And when we try to point out to them, hey, that's going to be detrimental to the economy. It's going to hurt people more than help people. They'll sit there and be like, no, not true, no. What, you don't care about the fast food workers? You don't care? Where's your empathy? Where's your sympathy? When they wanted to shut down the economy because of COVID. Oh, what? But so you want to kill grandma? Who cares if the economy shut down as long as it saves lives? But as soon as these tariffs get mentioned, as soon as these tariffs get brought up, all of a sudden, Cenk Uygur and all these other goofballs come out of the work and be like, but gee, how is that going to affect the economy? Gee, how is that going to affect inflation? Gee, the economy, but the economy, but the economy, but the economy. How come all of a sudden they become economy experts when it becomes to something Trump wants to do to try to help the American people? It's almost as if they're full of crap.
In that very brief clip, it appears that Donald Trump wants to do away with income taxes and replace it with tariffs. Now, do I think he's actually going to pursue getting rid of federal income taxes? No, I don't think he's going to do that. I actually think this story is hiding what is likely to happen because Donald Trump is very much interested in extending his tax cut bill from 2017. And in order to do that, he's gonna make an argument, the Republicans in Congress are gonna make an argument that doing this tax cut is totally fine. It's not going to add to the deficit because we have a pay for, and the pay for is gonna be tariffs. So let's go through this on a more granular level. So when it comes to revenue for the federal government, they currently generate some revenue from tariffs. That is true, but we're not talking about a lot of cash. We're talking about less than $100 billion annually. Tariffs have accounted for just 2% of annual revenues in recent years. In fact, take a look at this chart put together by Reuters, which gives you a sense of where the federal government gets the majority of its revenue from. So as you can see, the blue and the green represents individual income taxes and payroll taxes. So the bulk of revenue that the federal government generates comes from those two sources. Corporate income taxes, much smaller, But even corporate income taxes bring in more revenue to the federal government compared to tariff payments, which is represented by that little red sliver that you see on the graph, okay? So by and large, the majority of revenue from the federal government comes from both individual income taxes and payroll taxes. Okay, now, obviously tariffs would have to increase pretty substantially in order to cover the lost revenue from ending income taxes. Now, the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation estimated Trump's most extreme tariff proposals, a 20% universal tariff plus a 60% tariff on China's exports to the US, would raise about $3.8 trillion over the 10-year budget window, falling short of the $4.3 trillion needed to fully offset the cost of making the expiring tax cuts permanent.
Yeah, so that's my second beef with the tariffs. Because look, some degree of tariffs could make sense.
I'm surprised Cenk was able to bring up beef without just completely salivating all over the table.
It's not to say that you shouldn't have any tariffs on any goods, and I think there's a great argument to be made that if a different country, for example, China puts a tariff on us on a certain product, that we do likewise. We just mirror what they do so that we get to parity. And I don't want other countries taking advantage of us. Now, having said that, all this tariff talk is exactly what Anna said. It's to mask the 4.3 trillion they're about to give away to largely the rich. And Trump also wants to lower the corporate taxes from 21%, which is already maniacally low, to 15%. So more giveaways to corporations. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna tell his base, oh, that's okay, the tariffs are gonna make up for it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, yeah.
And that's not gonna come close. Even if he did all the tariffs and they didn't drive up inflation and they didn't get us into a trade war and they didn't create havoc, it still raised about 10% of the money you need to cover those tax cuts.
Yeah.
Well, what we could do then is spend less. I mean, wasn't there recently a report came out that we were selling what? Man, I don't even remember how much, an enormous amount of money, like millions of dollars, I think, if not more, millions and millions of dollars to what? Gaza for condoms? Like, why do we need to do that? Why do we need to send our money to Gaza for that? What did that do? Cenk, if you could show me how that tangibly helped the world or our country in any way, then I'll take back what I said. But I highly doubt us sending money for condoms for Gaza did anything to help anybody. It's a waste of money. So yeah, the tariffs as of our spending right now won't offset it. But maybe if we cut out spending money on condoms for Gaza and other useless crap that we're spending our tax money on, then maybe it'll balance itself out. What do you guys think about this so far in the comment section? Sound off in the comment section below. Smash that like button. Let's continue.
So it's a trick, guys. It's a trick to try to pass. And you know what Trump did last time? He added $8.4 trillion to the deficit. And he's gonna do it again. And he's gonna pretend that the tariffs will save the day 12 years from now. Nonsense. They're not gonna save the day at all. And we're gonna be so massively bankrupt after we redistributed all the money to the top.
Yeah, and look, it is true that the tariffs that Donald Trump implemented against China in his first term did not lead to inflation. In fact, even the Biden administration had a debate about it when they were in charge, and they realized, oh wow, this actually did not lead to inflation. And they not only kept Trump's China tariffs, they expanded upon them. So I wanted to just kind of make that point. There are some instances where targeted tariffs might make sense. However, if you're gonna do tariffs across the board, and you're gonna do away with the federal income tax, I think that is gonna lead to hyperinflation.
At least Anna's trying to be fair here. See, again, the reasonable one here in the Young Turks. You know, Cenk Uygur needs that balance there from his wacko Trump deranged outbursts and his Trump deranged statements. But you have Anna here. Listen, I don't agree with what Anna's saying, but at least she's being, she's being fair. I wish she would just go out on her own already, but apparently she's super loyal. She scored high on the loyalty test.
Because the consumers will be forced to absorb the cost of those tariffs, but there's also the issue of money supply, right? If you're not being taxed for federal income, well, then you might have a little more disposable income more money supply means more inflation, does it not?
Yeah. So look, those are great points. But on top of that, look, Trump does this all the time. He proposes something so extreme like getting rid of the income tax entirely, so that it appears to be a compromise when they give away $4 trillion to the rich. So they're
going to do that anyway.
It's absolutely impossible to get rid of the income tax. If we got rid of the income tax, we'd have no money, including for beloved defense in Israel. So there's no way it's going to happen, okay? So just on pork barrel projects alone, they'd never allow it. These guys are all owned by the donors. So the income tax being taken, it's just an outlandish, ridiculous idea. No one should give it 1 ounce of credibility. And no, I'm not interested in a compromise where you get all of your tax cuts for the rich and all of your tax cuts for corporations.
Now,
same Cenk Uygur talking points. Oh, this is just gonna benefit the rich. It's gonna benefit the rich. Of course, it's just gonna benefit big corporations and the donors and the rich. They always bring up the whole tax cuts for the rich last time Trump was in office. Didn't he kind of cut taxes across the board? Like, it wasn't just like he gave the rich tax cuts or corporations tax cuts. It was across the board, wasn't it? Didn't we all get tax cuts? I mean, either way, we all benefited from it either way from his last presidency. We benefited way more from Trump's presidency than we did Biden's presidency.
It doesn't matter what you want because they're going to get that. Okay, they're going to get that. And this is what the compromise is. So Reuters reports that the House Ways and Means Committee included a 10% across the board tariff in its menu of options to pay for extending the tax cuts. It estimated such a tariff regime would fetch $1.9 trillion over 10 years, according to the memo. Extending the tax cuts Trump passed during his first term and which expired this year would cost $4 trillion, to your point, Cenk, over 10 years. According to estimates from analysts. And so
I just gotta say that 1.9 trillion is outlandish. I don't think it's gonna come anywhere near that. But even if they got everything they wanted and their dream scenarios happened, they still missed by 2 trillion.
Yeah, exactly. Look, the final thing I'll say about this is there were some ideas that Trump had on the campaign trail that I would like him to actually pursue. Okay, so for instance, this was a small thing, but I actually think it's a big deal. He had proposed making the interest on car loans tax deductible. And if you think that sounds outlandish, it isn't. In fact, that was something that consumers were able to do when filing their taxes up until 1986. I don't know why they got rid of that tax break, but if you're looking for tax cuts, I get it, you're gonna look out for your rich buddies. But how about some targeted tax cuts that actually help ordinary American citizens?
Yeah, look, we can go on and on earned income tax credit. There's many different ways that you could attack the issue of taxes. And by the way, do it in a way that's popular and get more of your proposals through because you've become more popular, but they're not gonna go in that direction. They're gonna go in an extreme direction because the number one point of the oligarchy that was sitting behind Donald Trump is a kleptocracy. I mean, these words, they're not great words. I don't like to use them often. Basically, they're gonna rob us, okay? And the donors of the Democrats also robbed us. But then when MAGA thinks that the donors of Trump won't rob us, I find that to be hilarious. Why do you think they gave him all that money? For the general welfare? Because they love MAGA so much? Come on, guys, don't be naive. So all those billionaires that were up on the stands during Trump's inauguration, they're all going, tax cuts, tax.
I'm just gonna leave it on that screen right there. This is exactly this. See, mask off. This is who Cenk Uygur is. Okay, he's trying his hand at appealing to MAGA and the right wing, but then Andrew Wilson slapped off that mask in his Piers Morgan debate, and so now we're just seeing classic Cenk Uygur. It's funny, Cenk Uygur is doing the same tactic that his boyfriend Bernie Sanders does, where Bernie Sanders will just demonize the billionaires because he himself is a millionaire. Remember, Bernie Sanders used to be about, the millionaires and the billionaires. It's not fair. It's not fair. And then after he became a millionaire, he's like, those evil billionaires. It's not fair. It's not fair. And now Cenk Uygur is over here just criticizing the billionaires. And you know why? It's because Cenk Uygur is a millionaire. If what's online about him is true, he is worth about $10 million. He thinks that just because he's a millionaire and not a billionaire, that he is one of us. But no, he is rich, he is part of the upper class. And who would be against tax cuts? It's as if the Democrats just want us to give our money to the government. Just every single dollar that they could squeeze out of us, they just want us to send it to the government. And every time we propose giving less money to the government, oh, it's bad. No. We should be giving our money to the government so then the government could spend it on useless crap or just give us that money back in like socialized healthcare and such. So I don't know. This clip kind of irked me a little bit, and so I just wanted to share it with you all. This is what's going on over there at the Young Turks. What did you guys think about what Unky Chunky had to say? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed today's clip. And if you did enjoy today's clip, I got a whole bunch more Young Turk stuff for you to click away, laugh at, and enjoy.